All right, today's topic, Dave Chappelle and this Netflix debacle. So there's been a lot of backlash in regards to his special. He's made references to trans people. Some people feel like it's hateful, etc., etc. And there's been a lot of interesting responses.
Joey Soloway, the creator of the Amazon series Transparent, saying this is gender violence, sharing his outrage as comedic humiliation in front of thousands of people and then broadcasting it to hundreds of millions of people is infinitely amplified gender violence. I want trans representation on the Netflix board, a trans person on the effing Netflix board this fucking week.
Okay. And you hear this a lot. People are feeling like what Dave Chappelle said is violence, okay? And I don't know how to tell you guys this in any simpler terms, but in no way, shape, or form are words violence. They never have been, they never will be. Unless someone threatens you with violence, which is illegal, it's not violence. Words are never going to be violence. Well, Abba, what he says leads to physical harm. Sure, maybe. Maybe you can make that case. A lot of things lead to physical harm in terms of words. Maybe you gossip about somebody. That could lead to physical harm. Maybe you give somebody too much stress when you yell at them. That could lead to physical harm. A lot of words could lead to like induce stress and things like that. But that's not the same as violence. Words have meanings. And when you change that to suit whatever narrative you want, it has real world implications. When you tell people that their opinions are violence, you are inherently justifying a violent reaction. That's why you have goobers like Antifa who think it's perfectly acceptable to show up to places and beat them there. Why? Because their ideas are violent. We're devolving into a weird society where we're saying, oh, if you don't say what I like, that's violence. Yeah. Excuse me? Are you saying I assaulted you? What the fuck are you talking about? What is that? What does that even mean? Words are violent. Behaving or involving physical force intended to hurt, damage, or kill someone or something. You know, even if we grant you that what he's saying is hateful, even if we grant you that if we grant it, which I do not believe it's hateful, but you're entitled to view it however. It's subjective in that sense, okay? If you feel that way, it still doesn't qualify as violence. He was violent towards me. What happened? How did he hit you? No, he said a bunch of things that were terrible. That's not violence. I'm sorry. Okay?
He said a bunch of things that you deemed terrible.
Exactly. And then they have another line, which I think is crazy, which is silence is violence.
I heard that a lot.
Silence is violence. So, if you say what I don't like, you're being violent. If you don't speak, you're being violent. At some point, we're going to get to a point where it's like, either say exactly what I said, or it's violence. And this is how they're co-opting folks into thinking exactly what they want. You cannot not speak on an issue, right?
If you not speak on that issue, you're being violent.
You're being violent, or you're encouraging the oppression. This language is, look at this. This lady was just eating food. During the Black Lives Matter stuff, right? This lady was just eating at a restaurant, and because she wasn't out there protesting, they surrounded her out of the restaurant. She was on the terrace. And they're like, white silence is violence. It's like, what? And I've heard that a lot.
I've heard that a lot.
Every time there's a tragedy.
Well, you remember when that happened, when the black hat happened? The black hat happened, and there's a bunch of people that were not posting the black square. And then, and what, by the way, the posting the black square was a blackout so that more black voices would be heard. But what it did was you just see black squared and all the black voices were submerged. But I digress. When people were not posting that black square, they went in the DM. I know it happened in the dance community. Why aren't you not? There's some people in the dance community came after the people. Why aren't you not posting the black square?
Yeah.
Because
you can't not want to be involved in something. You can't not be knowledgeable about something and feel uninformed. You can't be unsure about anything. If you don't speak, you're engaging in violence. Think about the implications of that. Yeah. You're engaging in violence.
Just like whenever
they don't even take into consideration. Sometimes a motherfucker's just tired. Well, if you're tired, you're being violent. Nigga, what? You know, I don't want to hear about every tragedy that happens over the world. Abba, how come you haven't spoken about Palestine? I don't know. I don't want to be informed. That's violence. What are you smoking?
Meanwhile, those people,
what are you smoking?
Meanwhile, those people are not posting anything about Haiti. Yeah. They're not posting about nothing about Chile, about Colombia, about none of these countries.
Oh, are you being violent because you haven't spoken about it? Soon it's going to be ignorance is violence. Being unaware is violence.
And wearing,
yeah, they be moving.
You're wearing no socks.
Yeah.
being violent right now.
Yo, these people are weird.
Go wear socks.
Nah,
You're
nah.
being violent.
Nah, bro. My toes,
Are violent.
yes, they are. They're not pretty.
They're violent.
They're ugly.
That's violence.
Yeah. Being ugly is violent.
God damn.
I've had a violent reaction. I don't know.
Bruh.
And I think why this is important in this conversation is that when we look at a stand-up comedian doing jokes, right? Jokes that we may not agree with or telling a story from a perspective we don't like, we don't try to engage anything with words anymore. They literally try to cancel. They said, get them deplatformed. Take the money and give it to trans creators, right? Take the money and put it into trans causes. Make sure that there's a disclaimer saying this is transphobia. According to who? According to who? Because you think so? What if there's other trans people who don't? Who are you to label this? Because think about it. If they get you to accept that words are violence, then yeah, there's a justification for stopping Dave Chappelle. That's a real justification. He's being violent on stage. Violence is unacceptable in society.
Yeah.
So if you can convince everyone that what he said, his words, are violence, then you can get people to believe anything.
That no matter what you say, and anybody says it, if you can deem it violent, you can cancel it.
Imagine this. Imagine you go out and you say, hey, this person is ugly. I don't think they're attractive at all.
That's violence.
And that person dies because someone killed them. You, because you said that on a public platform, you are participating in their murder. Why? Because your words link to that. It caused physical. They'll make leaps and bounds that you won't believe. And you might be thinking, oh, Abba, you're being hyperbolic. No. Did you ever think we'd get to a point where words became violence? Because I certainly didn't think that 15, 20 years ago. Did you? Am I crazy?
No, you're violent.
Did you think we would get to a point where when a criminal enters a female change room, a male criminal enters a female change room, when the females say that they feel unsafe in that change room,
that's violence.
They are attacked. And everyone said the females were being violent for not wanting that trans man, that trans woman who was a criminal, into their change room, an offender. Did you ever think we get to this point? Understand, the goalposts keep moving. Right? They're talking about Netflix. You need to hire a director who's trans, a VP who's trans. It's like, why? Now they're trying to tell companies how to run their shit, who they can or can't hire. This shit has gone mad. They're trying to create the untouchables. And this, you can't mention us. You can't talk about us in a derogatory way. You can't talk about us in a comedic way. You can't make fun of us. It's like, guys, in comedy, it's a simple rule. It's either all okay or not okay. That's how it works. You can't put these arbitrary lines where like, trans people are dying, so you can't make jokes. Listen, every motherfucker's out here dying, okay? You don't get a special privilege in regards to what humor is or isn't acceptable. You can choose to not watch something. You can critique the special. You can say the special was trash. You can even say the special had some hate in it. That's fine. I'm not mad at that. When you try to cancel people, when you try to label what they're saying as violence, even though it's not, right? Because violence is criminal. Sorry, guys. Being violent is criminal. I got an issue with that. People are changing all the definition of every word, and then we're all just supposed to sit by and watch it. When the whole silence is violence thing, people are like, oh, yeah, if you don't speak, people get hurt. So no, that's not the way it works. Inaction is not an action. That's not how it works. No, it's not though. That's not. Not speaking is speaking. No, it's not. Maybe I'm gathering my thoughts. Wow. Maybe I have nothing to say. You said everything with your silence.
Can you stop? What? Can you stop walking around the room? I mean, you're not walking, but you're walking by not walking.
Bro,
stop.
And by changing the words and have everyone accept it, that is how they co-opt the power structures. That is how they make those changes that they want. Yes, well, you can change from female to male. No, bitch, you can't. You want to change your gender, male to woman to man? I don't care. But you can't change sexes. It just, you can't change definitions.
And it reminded me of what happened to my good friend and mentor, Mike. It's what's happening with him. It's what happened with him. It's basically someone making a comedy set, try to prove a point how you can't touch certain people. Not physically. I'm talking about you can't talk about certain people a certain way.
And he talked about a handicapped kid.
He talk about all the people that were untouchable. So
Right.
he spoke about Celine Dion. He talked celebrities and different people that you cannot talk about
Yeah.
in Quebec. And he talked about an handicapped kid, how you cannot talk to him about him.
Yeah.
And the people proved his point.
They sued him, right?
He's right now waiting for his Supreme Court.
Yeah, if he doesn't pay the fine, he goes to jail.
Yes, sir.
No, yeah.
So Supreme.
So this is similar to that.
To me, it's similar to that because he did a bit trying to expose something. How you're canceling us. You're doing that shit that you don't want to be done to you.
Yeah.
But you're doing that, and then people turn around and prove his point. No, cancel him, take down his special and stuff like that. So that's a bit the same point that happened to Mike, and he's being sued right now. Mike Ward. I'm talking about Mike Ward basically, and he's being sued right now. It went to Supreme Court.
Silence is not violence. Okay? Words are not violence. They never will be. And don't let anybody convince you otherwise. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise. You can say those things are wrong, but they're not violence. And I think that's what the crux of this is. People are trying to say they don't want to see the world as it is. They want to see the world as they see it. And that matters. Because then they can just pull you into their imagination and have you believing things that aren't real. That's why you go on college campuses. Everybody got to walk on eggshells. Why? Because they've co-opted that structure.
Do you want to perform in the college?
Bruv.
Remember when we went to that university
To do a show and
I was hosting, and I went to ask someone. So hey, how you doing? Yeah, what's the name? And I got met with, and you were back on the side, and I got met with you don't have my consent to ask me my name. And I just went, oh boy. And I just went with the show, and you started laughing because how ridiculous that was.
That's why we don't do shows on campus
That's
anymore.
why we don't do shows on campus no more. We don't do comedy on campus no. And we're not the only one.
Yeah.
A lot of comedians has voiced their opinion about we're not doing shows on university campuses or college campuses because,
100%. These people are trying to censor folks. They're trying to censor folks. They're trying to have it in the back of your head that there's going to be tremendous consequence if you make jokes about trans people. Basically making themselves a very special class that you can't even mock. What are you smoking? You're not special. You're not different. Okay? You get joked about like everybody else. Why? For what reason? And listen, guys, it's important to confront ideas you don't like, to be met with speech you don't enjoy. You want to know why? Because it makes you more resilient. Yes, it makes you more resilient. And retaliating with violence is a basic human reaction, and it's not something you should give into. That's what savages and uncivilized people do. Just because someone says something to you, want to get violent. Their words are violent. No, there's no substitute for violence. Okay? Some of you need to build like thick skin. Y'all out here talking about I'm gonna snuff somebody if they say something. What's wrong with you? What? Not anyway. This is what I kept thinking about. Silence is violence. It's like, nigga, I'm tired. I don't want to watch the news and fucking comment on some bullshit.
hey.
Silence is violence.
But there's some people, there's some people that do threaten you. There's some people that use their words and they challenge you to a boxing match.
Yeah.
And then you say yes.
We're not even going to go there. I like how you said you don't want to bring that shit up and then you brought that shit up.
I didn't mention no name.
Anyways.
I said I don't want to mention no names.
Let us know what you guys think in the comments.
I said I didn't want to mention no names. I don't want to mention no names.